for dark nights. No One Comes Up Here. Written by Sumaya Tasneem. Narrated by James Cleveland. Featuring Eric Sizemore, Alicia Pavlis, David Alnwick, and Jesse Cornett.
I looked up from where I stood. Just a couple of steps and I would reach my destination. My heart hammered like a million pounding drums. My head was dizzy with excitement. Behind me, I heard my friends grunt and pant as they struggled, clambering over the jagged and broken rocks. I stood straight and proud as I took the final step, summiting the cliff. I gazed over my shoulder to check on my friends. They weren't far behind. "Come on, hurry up, we're almost there," I called.
Jackson, how far is it from here?
Alice asked as she managed to wrench herself forward. "It's right there, over that cliff." She continued walking, and some other people followed. In all honesty, I didn't know most of them. I had only brought them along because I needed a good support team. There were 7, including me. Adam, Alice, and Brad were the only ones with whom I was well acquainted. They were fit for the job and very obedient, exactly what I needed. I wasn't thrilled about the fact that I would have to share my money with them after we achieved our goal and handed our pictures over to the mayor, but I had made peace with it. My only goal right now was to climb up Channel Mountain, get some pictures, and climb back down. Channel Mountain, as the articles say, is this mountain with a flat top. The place has massive number of trees all over it, except for this clean path running north to south. A clear, channel-like road, hence the name, Channel Mountain. There is a way up from one side and a safer way down from the other. No one before us has had the guts to come up here, so of course I decided to do it. Build my own team and use my own technology to show everyone what this place actually looked like. Naturally, the money we'd receive was a strong incentive. Finally, I reached the very edge. I held my breath and took the final step up, too excited to wait for the rest of them. That was when I first saw Channel Mountain. It had more of an impact in person than anything the articles had conveyed. The air was thick and misty, like a cold cloud of shriveling fog. My breath froze within me at the very sight of it. The sky suddenly looked pale. There was a clear road at the center, and the corners stood lush, oddly shaped lines of trees. Their branches stretched long and far from the trunks. The trees looked quite healthy and well tended. Strange, I thought, as there was no one else up here to look after them. At least, that's what the article said. The path reached into the distance, as far as my eyes could see. It looked almost endless. The area ahead of me was blurred and obscured by the thick fog hanging in the air like stone-cold smoke. I admired what lay in front of me. That's when a strange feeling ignited and stirred inside my gut. A burning sensation, somewhere between foreboding and guilt. A feeling that warned me of danger, demanding that I turn away. I wanted to turn around and maybe forget about the whole thing, but my team finally caught up with me, and I heard most of them gasp when they saw what I saw.
Oh my god.
One of them said. There was a pause as my friends absorbed the atmosphere of the roadway.
Oh, wow.
Oh.
Never seen anything like this.
Is this the place?
Brad asked, his voice raspy.
Why does it feel so creepy?
No, it wasn't creepy. Creepy wasn't the word to describe it. It was more unsettling. There was a visceral feeling of dangerous uncertainty flowing through the air of the place. No word I could think of was powerful or accurate enough to describe what we felt. I was just a tiny inch away from the mist of the forest. Just one more step and I would physically feel the fog. It took every ounce of willpower in me to convince myself to move on. But I reminded myself of the money and what I had put myself and my team through to get up here in the first place. We had already climbed for God knows how long to get to the top. After that much effort, I was quite sure no one would want to turn back. After all, the end of the mountain was a long way back down. Besides, the walk along the road wasn't that long either. It shouldn't take us more than 30 minutes to get to the other side.
Well, I guess we should get moving,
I said, trying to sound enthusiastic. My voice came out cracked and unconvincing. I took a step forward, then slowly and steadily stepped into the mist. The white fog gently stroked my skin, leaving light goosebumps all over me. I trembled a bit. Then, without warning, a feeling of dread poured over me, making me regret my decision almost immediately. Nothing about the place felt right. Darkness swept through my mind. I felt it, an extra presence. Someone or something apart from the other members of my team. Although no one was seen, there was a presence. I could feel it. An evil, deceptive danger watching us as we took every breath. My friends were utterly silent. Looking at them, I could see their fear. It was written all over their faces. They all wanted to turn back, but no one wanted to admit it. No one wanted to be the first one to snap under the pressure. After another pause, I continued to walk. Our footsteps echoed through the empty space. It was like walking through an empty, hollow shell. Our breathing had become unsettled and sharp as we kept alert, our eyes wide open and our ears sharper than ever. Adam, our camera boy, was immersed in his work. He snapped his flashlight to everything he saw. Everything of recording he documented to be taken back as the evidence needed to collect our prize money. Glancing down, I noticed that even the grass around the bases of the trees looked odd, like thin green needles found inside vaccination syringes. We walked around for 3 minutes, and some people began to complain.
Why are we even here? Is this even worth it?
Brad was starting his usual annoying behavior. At the moment, I had no interest in dealing with it.
For all the money we'd get, yes, it is,
I said, firmly. I was clearly lying to myself, but I couldn't let anyone see my weakness or question me at this point.
How do you know if there's even a way down? No one comes up here.
Said Brad.
The articles predicted there would be.
They predicted. How would you know for sure we can get out of here?
Brad questioned.
He's got a point.
Alice cut in hesitantly, trying to make it look like she wasn't taking anyone's side. Everyone thought for a while. Then their half-expectant and half-angry eyes gazed at me, demanding an explanation. Of course, it was my plan, and by extension, problems that arose were my fault. But really, who wouldn't want a lifetime supply of money?
Guys,
I began.
This is not the time to blame each other.
Their faces looked more disapproving.
Look, we'll get out of here, I promise.
And what if we don't? It'll be your fault.
Brad was clearly not about to let this go. I sighed. Why did I bring him along?
Guys, look, for now, just trust me. Right at the end of this path, there is a way down. We'll just have to keep walking.
Everyone else seemed more relaxed as a result of my front of certainty, but Brad refused to budge.
So you got us up here without even knowing the goddamned way out?
I just told you how to get down.
I shot back.
You said the article predicted. How does predicted suggest anything close to certainty?
He was like an annoying 10-year-old. That's when I lost it.
Brad, if you don't shut up, I'll throw you down the cliff. If you stop being such a jerk, we can all leave this place with our sanity.
See? It's absolutely clear you don't know what you're doing.
My blood began to boil. He was right. All that he said was right, and that's what pissed me off.
Just shut up!
I screamed at him at the top of my lungs, almost tearing my vocal cords with the ferocity. Brad fell silent. Everyone fell silent. At first, I thought it was because of my outburst. But then I realized he wasn't looking at me. None of them were. They stared way past me, their eyes reflecting pure, underlying horror. I followed their gazes. It led into the dense line of trees. For a minute, I couldn't comprehend what had scared them so. Then I saw it. At first, relief washed through me. It looked like a figure of a lady, faded and unclear through the mist. She walked closer. I noticed her features grow more and more defined with every step. I noticed that she was tall, really tall. I noticed that her skin was covered in scars. No, not scars. It looked more like the skin on her body was actually tattered or frayed, like some sort of fabric. I noticed that her limbs were really long. I noticed she only had a few grass-like hairs on her head. I noticed how awkwardly she walked in stiff, jerky movements. When she finally came into clear view, I understood why my friends looked so terrified. Just a few meters away stood the ugliest, weirdest creature I had ever seen. A sight which would haunt our memories for the rest of our living minutes. She breathed like a tire deflating. Her head was covered by a few patches of grass. Her torso stretched to 7 feet high, and her arms were like long, lanky pieces of wood. Her skin resembled the flaked fiber of wooden trunks. She had only one eye, on the left, which was a pure silver color. It had no iris, but I could tell it was looking straight at us. For a few seconds, none of us moved. Her eyeball rolled from me to Alice, then to Brad, then to Adam, then to the rest of us. From the corner of my eye, I saw Adam step forward and place his eye at the lens of the camera, crouching slightly to get a good shot of it.
Adam, no!
I tried to warn him, but it was too late. Adam pressed the trigger. The light flared from his camera and right into the thing's beady little eyeball. The creature flinched in shock, letting out the most haunting and blood-curdling scream. Her scream echoed in her ears, ringing like a million sirens. She crouched down on all fours and in the blink of an eye charged straight at us. Alice screamed as she sprinted in the opposite direction. Without thinking, we ran after her. We were running the wrong way, I knew, but it was too late. We had to escape from that thing. Adrenaline shot through my body as I felt my heart pound loudly in my ears. We ran blindly along that path of fog, which became thicker and thicker as we ran.
I think we lost her!
Brad screamed, his voice hoarse. We slowed our pace, but remained on high alert. The fog was thicker now, like a solid cloud. All the members in our party were close by, but they looked like faded shadows, like thin fragments.
What the hell was that?
Adam yelled, gasping for breath.
Why don't you ask the guy who got us into this?
I could feel Brad's gaze on me.
Did you even know that creature lives up here?
How would I?
So you didn't know anything about this? I knew it. I just knew it. You just got us here for that stupid money, didn't you?
Brad yelled, his voice echoing through the forest. As he ranted, my mind could only think that, God forbid, he might attract that creature again.
Brad, just shut up. She might hear us.
I'm not shutting up until you admit that I'm right.
I didn't know we'd get a visit from Mrs. Horrifying Plant Lady, all right? The articles said nothing about any of that.
Why the hell would anyone rely on some stupid random article at the back of a paper no one reads? Is that the sort of thing you use to make important life decisions?
That's enough, Brad. Stay quiet or she'll come back.
Adam cut in, coming to my defense.
We should probably go to the other side of this place. That's the way down.
I could tell he was speaking to me.
All right, is everyone here?
I asked. Everyone answered like a disjointed roll call, but I could feel someone's absence.
Wait, where's Alice?
Everyone gazed at each other, scanning to find the brunette in the mist.
She was right here in front of me.
Adam said, unable to disguise the panic in his voice. Everyone was growing frantic with fear. Our breathing was getting faster, irregular, and we shuffled nervously on the dry, sandy path as we continued searching for our friend.
The trees.
Adam finally said.
Maybe she went into the forest.
His voice was trying to reassure himself as much as comfort others.
Yeah, maybe she did.
My throat was like sandpaper.
But what about that monster?
Someone yelled.
She must be quite far behind us by now. We ran for quite a long time.
I said, and stepped forward, ignoring any further protest. Everyone headed to the dense canopy of trees. I felt my shoe dig into the surprisingly wet mud. My feet sank in, and I had to struggle to take one step at a time. No one complained. They all just wanted to find Alice and get out of this weird place. Just a few steps in, someone nearly lost their mind.
Guys, it feels like the mud's sucking me in.
Adam said in a voice of alarm.
It's just mud, Adam. Grow up.
Brad scolded. But I, too, could feel something going on in the mud. I did feel suction, a pull from below.
I feel it.
Someone said.
I feel it too.
Another admitted.
Well, I don't.
Brad rolled his eyes.
Grow up, all of you. We need to...
His sentence was interrupted. Without any warning, Brad went down. He didn't lose his balance and stumble. He didn't trip over anything. To all our horror, we watched as Brad was sucked into the muddy, wet ground like it was a giant vacuum cleaner. It happened so fast it was over almost before I could process what I was seeing. And the last thing we saw of him was his hand, with his Rolex watch reaching out of the mud, desperately trying to claw his way to the surface. Adam lunged to his rescue.
Brad.
But within a second, he fell in too, and was quickly submerged in the muck. I heard someone scream, then everyone burst into panic. We tried to run,
but the mud was growing thicker and heavier, and worst of all, harder. Hard enough to slow us down. In matters of seconds, everyone around me was sucked in, one by one. I watched helplessly as my friends disappeared, and then, suddenly I was alone. For a second, nothing happened. I was left with white, thick, suffocating fog, and with a curtain of dead silence falling all around me. I knew I was about to be the final victim. I knew I was being watched. I knew I was being saved for the last. And I felt it. The iron grip of a giant, ragged hand wrap around my ankle. I was next. The hand pulled me down with unimaginable strength and force. At first, I felt my body move down wet mud, and then I simply felt like I was falling. It was just a couple of seconds until a long, rough, coil-like structure wrapped around me, holding me firmly in place. I coughed as my throat burned from the mud inside. I gasped for breath and opened my eyes. My jaw hung open at what I saw. On top of me was a large dome of soil with roots hanging down, looking thick and healthy. From the dome protruded an endless number of giant roots, each of which held something at its end in tight, round coils. I wanted to scream when I realized what were in the coils. They were bony remains, human remains, and now I was coiled in just like them. Around me, all my friends were also held tightly in their own coils, all screaming in despair. It took me a moment to realize precisely at what they were screaming. Then I saw them. At the tops of the roots were tiny little creatures, miniature versions of the plant lady we saw earlier. Millions of them crouched on all fours, their silver eyes glaring down at us in a combination of surprise, amusement, and awe. They made the same horrible sound their mother did, and began to crawl down the roots, coming straight for us. I heard Alice scream, and realized that she was on the coil right next to me. The grubby little creatures climbed on her body. I saw one of them sink its teeth into her arm. She screamed in pain, and I felt paralyzed with fear. The same happened to everyone. One by one, I saw their blood, I saw their bones, and I heard their cries grow muffled, and then cease entirely as the creatures devoured them alive. When finally the creatures cleared away from the coils, I saw the remains of all my friends. These people, alive just minutes ago, now lay broken and twisted in the grips of the coil-like rag dolls. Their flesh and muscles pulled away from their bones. Those creatures must have enjoyed my expression of pure horror. Then they began to crawl toward me. I was their main course. I could barely whimper as I struggled on the root coils, trying to pry them off me, trying to cut them with my teeth, trying to do anything to break their fierce grip on me. The coils had the sturdiness of hard cement. There was no escape. The creatures climbed onto my body, and still I fought the inevitable, trying everything to push them away. But just as they descended on me, a loud, ragged voice spoke.
Now, children, leave the last one for Mommy.
Those words froze every muscle in my body. I saw her appear as her children scurried away. Her tree bark-like mouth parted into a gruesome grin.
You're a good one,
She said as her enormous hand squeezed my leg.
you've got some nice fleshiness and some good rubbery muscle.
Her hands released me from the coils as she clasped me in her palm.
I'm glad you're here.
she said happily, sitting down cross-legged on the ground like she was getting ready to have a picnic.
I haven't had such a good meal in ages. After all, no one comes up here.
I screamed as loud as I could, but ignoring my cries, she closed her mouth around my head. I shut my eyes, awaiting the end. A moist, warm gush of wind rushed around my head. Her twig-like teeth pierced the flesh of my neck, and I felt a forceful pull on my head. The excruciating pain overwhelmed me. Every second brought new depths of agony and terror. Finally, just when I could take no more, my vision went black. After that, I felt nothing.